Hi, and welcome back to another AnyRPG Development Livestream. In these videos, you can watch the live streaming of the development of the AnyRPG Engine, a free and open source role-playing game engine designed in Unity and written in C#. If you don't already have a copy of AnyRPG, you can pick one up from anyrpg.org/downloads in both Unity package and source code format. You can also download A Lost Soul, the game that I work on in these episodes, at the same page for free. In this episode, we will be adding a range check to the bars in the game. So right now, when we cast different spells and abilities, they all have different ranges, and right now there's no indication to the player whether or not those bars or whether or not your character basically is in range or not. So if you see, for example, I've got this ability right here, my Solar Singe, and I can target an enemy, and if I try to cast it on him, that one worked because he was in range. But let's try an enemy much farther away, like this zombie over here. So basically I hit it and nothing happens. My character goes into combat, but it's not casting. And so we don't know how far away we actually need to be to cast this. So there's two things we need to fix. First, we need to put like some sort of range on this tooltip here. And then second, an indicator. And so what I want is I want for this number 5 to turn red if you have an enemy selected and you're out of range. And then that way you can just sort of run back and forth, and this thing should turn white, letting you know that you can cast. So those are the two things that we'll be doing in this episode. So let's start with the tooltip first. So for that, we want to go to the ability and look at its get summary method. And basically, we want to add in a range to the ability. So here we're showing the cooldown, the mana cost, the description, and the string. So I think I actually want to add it right after ability mana cost. So we'll just put in ability range here. That means that we'll want to copy this code right here. And instead of cost, we'll have range. This will be 3, which means that will become 4, and that one will become 5. Now we need to actually make ability range as a string that can hold our range for us. So let's do that. We will go string ability range equals, and in this case the string is going to be something meters, so we'll just put meters right there. And before that, we will want to get the actual range. So we have max range and melee range. So what we want to do is basically, if the use melee range is true, then we want to put in the actually we'll just put in the string melee, and otherwise we will put in the my max range plus meters. Alright, so now we have an ability range, and this should display in our tooltip. So let's just confirm that. And also for max range, basically we can have unlimited as well, but let's just go take a look at the tooltips and just see what they look like first before we make any more adjustments to that. Okay, so here I can see my range is 30 meters, 0 meters, which is unlimited basically, 10 meters, 20 meters. Okay, that's good. So now we have the range on here. I think I'll want to 30 meters. Perfect. Okay, so now what we want to do basically is whenever we target someone, we want this number to change depending on whether or not we're actually in range of the enemy. So let's do that. And the way we need to do that is to actually hook into a method, and two methods called setTarget and clearTarget. And setTarget is found, the one we're looking for, in AI controller. It's actually character controller specifically. So let's go down to the base controller, and we have some methods right here, on setTarget and on clearTarget. So we'll want to subscribe to these basically, and in our game we've got an action bar controller, and what we'll want to do is basically loop through all of the buttons that are on the action bars whenever we hear these events, and then start some sort of update to set the color on the buttons based on what the range of our current target is. So to do that, let's find our action bar manager first. And in our action bar manager, we have a create event subscriptions here. So let's see, so in our base controller, let's find all references to onSetTarget here and just see, we just call it right here. We don't emit anything through the system event manager because normally we would hook into the system event manager for this. And the player won't be spawned when the action bar manager creates its event subscriptions. So what we'll have to do basically is actually listen for the player spawn before we can subscribe to those events. So to do that, we're already listening for on player connection despawn. And The question is, should we be listening for a connection spawn or a unit spawn? And I think I'm going to go with unit spawn. So let's do that. We'll do the system event manager.myInstance.onPlayer unit spawn plus equals, and we'll make a method handle player unit spawn. And then when we clear our event subscriptions, we will want to remove the listener for handle player unit spawn. Now let's go ahead and make that method. So it'll be public void handle player unit spawn. And when the player unit spawns, we want to listen to his clear target and set target events. So to do that, we'll also want to listen to the player unit despawn so we can clear those. So we might as well create that method right now as well. And we'll add the listener up here. So on player unit despawn. And then the same thing here, we'll want to remove it at the end when our action bar manager dies. Although our action bar manager is long-lived, it should live the entire game. So basically this should only ever get run on teardown anyway. And then in the handle player unit spawn, we'll set a listener for the clear target. So if our player, no, you know what? We already know that that's good. So, okay. So the listener will be player manager.myInstance.myCharacter.onSetTarget plus equals handle set target. And we'll want to actually make that method as well. So public void handle set target. And this will take a game object target. On the despawn, we will want to remove the listener for that as well. And we'll also want to add a listener for on clear target. And then have a method called handle clear target. And then of course when the player despawns, we will want to remove that listener. We'll want to make that method as well. So public void handle clear target. And now what we want to do is basically set up a coroutine that whenever there's a target, it runs an update and does something to the buttons and checks if our enemies are in range or not. So let's go ahead and set up a coroutine here. This will be the private coroutine. Let's see, we'll call it target range routine. And it will be null by default. And if the target range routine is null, then start coroutine. And now we actually have to make that, so we'll do a public IE numerator, and this will be update target range. And so now what we want to do is we need a way to basically exit from here. When we clear the target, so let's actually make a reference to this coroutine first here. So first we'll make the update target range as the coroutine that we're going to call, and we will assign that to our target range routine. Then we will stop coroutine target range routine when we clear the target. Okay, we still need to add a while loop in here with some condition, and then basically yield return null every time. And I don't want to just do a true loop. What I want to do is basically check if we actually currently have a target or not. So we only, let's see, we only realistically care for now about enemies, but why don't I just set the target as a private game object? Target should be okay. We'll set that as null. Just make a note here that that's an action bar target for range checks. And when we clear the target, we will set our target equals null. And when we set the target, we will set our this dot target equals target. And now we need to make a check here. Public bool has target. And I'm doing this because with coroutines, I think the variable space gets copied in. So basically, like if we have a target, I think that target's variable's value will stay the same in this loop and it won't update real time. So I'm just going to make a function to check this, and basically we're just going to return whether or not the target is null. So actually we want to return target does not equal null. So basically, if our target is not null, then it's true. If our target is null, then it doesn't have a target, it's false. So then while has target. And here, I think maybe we need to check also if target range routine does not equal null, then stop coroutine target range routine, because I'm not sure what happens if we try to stop a null coroutine. And then we just want to perform this has target check. Okay, so now this should be okay. And then what we want to do is we want to loop through all the bars and see if we need to check anything. But first what we want to do is we want to basically get a range. So we'll make a float distance to target. And for starters, it'll just be 0. And then while we have a target, then our new distance to target equals, and in this case, it's going to be the vector 3 dot distance between our player, so our player manager dot my instance dot my character dot my animated unit dot transform, and the target dot transform. Dot position. Okay, now the reason we're checking it here is so that we don't have to perform this distance calculation on every single action button, because there's like 70 of them. So now what we want to do is basically we want to pass in the distance to the target into a method that will go in and check the action bars and let them know that it's time to update. So here, this is basically the loop, because we have action bar controllers. So we will loop through our action bar controllers, and you know what? I think we already have, just a second. I think we create a reference to our action buttons already. Let's just see here. Yeah, okay, we don't save that anywhere. So let's keep that. And then we want to run another loop for each action button in action bar controller dot my action buttons. And now this is where we want to perform the update. So let's see, what we want to do is, if the action button dot my, and we've got usable as base ability, is base ability, and that'll discount things that aren't abilities like scrolls and such. Then let's just make a reference to this to make it easy. So we don't have to write that as statement every time. And then we want to check basically if our target is an enemy, Actually, I guess we really don't care if our target is an enemy. What we care about mostly is just the range. So let's see, we want to perform the range check based on the ability. So if the base ability dot my max range is greater than the distance to target, then we want to set the button color, or set the text color to red. Else, we want to set the text color to white. And we also need to account for melee abilities. Melee ability will be based on basically like hitbox distance. So we'll handle that calculation after. Let's just get the ranged ability ones working first. So to set the color to red, we will grab the action button dot my keybind text dot color equals color dot red, and that is only necessary if it's not already red. So if action bind button dot my keybind text dot color does not equal color dot red, then we will set it that way. Here we want to do the same thing. If the color does not equal color dot white, then we're going to set it to color dot white. Okay, so this is for the range case, but first we want to check if the base ability dot use melee range is true, because if it is, we want to basically do something completely different. So if the base ability dot use melee range is true, then we need to see what the character's hitbox size is. So we have a hitbox size variable on something. I think it's the character controller. Let's just go to is target in hitbox. Here we have get hitbox size. And I think we need to make that public. So let's just look at get hitbox size. Yeah. In this case, I don't want to do the full calculation to see if the target's within the hitbox. I just want to sort of randomly know if he's in the right range, and melee range is basically hitbox size. approximate is good enough for that. It's not going to work if the guy's behind the character, but at least you'll know he's in the right range, which is more what we're looking for. So now we can call get hitbox size. So what we want to do is basically compare this hitbox size. So if melee range is true, then if the distance to target is greater than the hitbox size, and hitbox size, let's go to the definition of that because that's actually a vector. It's actually my hitbox in character stats. Okay, you know what? That's actually exactly what we want. I was grabbing even the wrong variable here. We don't care about that. We care about my character stats dot my hitbox because that gives us a float. There, that's better. Okay. So if the distance to target is greater than the hitbox size, then red text. Else white text. Now, since this code is exactly the same, then what we should do is basically just set a Boolean here and call it in range. And then at the end of this, if in range, if the button's not white, make it white. Else, make it red if we're out of range, if it's not already red. Okay, good. So here we just set in range equals false for the red case, and in range equals true for the white case. And then we perform this calculation here once. All right, and then at the very end of this, it is possible that we could deselect a target before the next iteration of this loop runs, leaving some of the buttons red. So what we need is a method then that resets all the colors on them. To do that, let's just make it a public void, reset range colors. And basically, we just want to just go ahead and set the color to white if it's not white. Really simple method. So then, when we handle the clear target here, we're just going to reset the range colors. Okay, and that should do it. Let's go check if we've got any errors. Okay, so all the buttons are white, as they should be. We have highlighted the bunny. Nothing is turning red. Okay, so I think we need some debugging code here. So let's just make sure that these methods are being called. So we'll just add debug messages to all of them. And let's see. We'll just make a message here. Setting color to white. And then right here, setting color to red. Okay, now let's go back and just check. We create our event subscriptions, handle player unit spawn, then we subscribe to our onset target and on clear target. Let's see. When we stop the coroutine, we should also set target range routine equals null. And honestly, when we come out of the coroutine, we should pretty much do the exact same thing. Set target range routine equals null. That shouldn't have any effect, really, for now, because we shouldn't have ever had that thing set to anything other than null. Okay, let's try that, and let's just see if any of those debug messages fire, to see if we're at least receiving the message that we had a target set. Okay, so that's good. We did enter the update target range coroutine. However, it doesn't appear that the buttons are updating. So let's just see. call while has target. Yeah, we don't set the target until after the target coroutine. So we need to set that first, so it's not null and the method doesn't immediately exit on us. And at the end here, why don't we just put a message letting us know that we are exiting the coroutine, just to make sure everything is happening in the order we expect it to. Okay, we will highlight oh yeah, look at that. Look at that. We had a bunch of things turn red immediately and they went straight back to white. Beauty, it's working. Okay, so let's move up until we're in range for solar singe. Okay, that part's not working. Okay, so solar singe has a range of 30 meters, and we are way closer than 30 meters. And we have not yet exited the coroutine. Okay, so let's see, I think I need another debug message here. This is gonna cause some crazy spam in the logs, but still have target at position. No, you know what? We want distance. Still have target at distance. Distance to target. We should end up triggering this block of code here, that if the ability.myMaxRange is greater than distance to target, which should end up becoming false, setting in range to true. If we're in range and the color doesn't equal white, we should be setting it to white. And let's just add some additional debugging information here and put the name in. And then let's see what Unity thinks the range is. Okay. So we are at 21. We're like way closer now. The range on the solar singe is still 30 meters. Okay, so we were in range for those abilities. So that's really interesting. Because we shouldn't have basically set those to red then. So let's just add a little more debugging information there. We'll add the name and then what the distance is, and then what the base abilities max range is. And actually, why don't we just move that down and then just put in range as well. And then why don't we do the same thing here and just let us know that it's melee or not. Okay, we'll save that and press play again. Load up the channeler and select the bunny and see what the logic is for why it decided to set those to red. So according to this, the variable in range was set to false, even though max range is greater than distance. And that's because I've gone and flipped these around, I think. I think my logic is failing for less than checks today. Basically, if the ability's max range is less than the distance to the target, we should be doing that. And let's see, for the melee ability, do we have this one correct here? If the let's just put that on the same side of the condition here. So basically, if the hitbox size is less than the distance to the target, then it's false. Okay, that should be a little better. So we'll press play again and load up the channeler. Alright, and now we will select the bunny. Okay, that's better. So basically the range of blast of light is 15 meters and it's gone red. The range of weakness is 0 meters, which I'll have to fix, but that's looking pretty good. And actually it's nice, you can see as the bunny sort of hops in and out of range of the 20-meter mark, then our blinding ray is becoming available. Okay, so this is awesome. So now I can basically fight like I like to fight, where I sort of run up to an enemy and I'm just hovering my finger over the button and button turns white and now I can cast. Okay, cool. So that did it. And now we finally have range checks. Let's go test out the melee version of this check here. So I want to see if unarmed attack becomes available when I get within hitbox range of the bunny. And there, it did. It turned white and the attack became available. If I hit escape, all the buttons go back to white. Perfect. So I think we nailed it. I'm really liking how that's working. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, don't forget to thumbs up the video, subscribe to the AnyRPG YouTube channel, or just leave a note in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time.